Open for Hollywood. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, hello, hello. I'm Mia Voss. You're watching the Mia Connect Power Chat. This week we're going to be talking about Hollywood. I've got a film producer here in my film strip, and he's so juicy that I only brought him on by himself because he's enough. He's enough man for this man, if you know what I'm saying. So welcome to the show, Gary W. Goldstein.
Thank you, Mia Voss.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm peachy. I'm nifty. Everything's good.
By the way, you guys, Gary and I had a little pre-show show this week, a little private pre-show show. He's that bubbly and effervescent all the time. So you're just a happy guy. I love that about you.
I am. I'm excited. Life is good. There's nothing to complain about. I try every now and then to complain. It doesn't work.
Yeah. How's that go over for you? Are people like, that's not you?
Yeah, it's not working.
Yeah, that's when you're like, this ain't me. All right, so listen, we're going to jump into a lot of different things. Of course, we're going to talk about Hollywood. We're going to talk about Pretty Woman, Mothman Prophecies, Under Siege 1 and 2. Definitely Pretty Woman. I was telling Gary that I just watched it last weekend, and it was kind of scary. Gary, I think I told you this. I was really mouthing a lot of the words. One of my favorite lines is, you work on commission. Big mistake. Huge. I use that a lot in context to people that are like, oh, big mistake, huge. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to get into what I call, you may or may not know this, the Bat Pack. The Bat Pack is my audience. They show up every week. They ask questions. They interact. They chat with one another. It's like a fun bar, but it's online. So with that, we've got some fun people. My brother Mike Alton is in the audience. You know Brother Mike.
I know Brother Mike.
You do. Mike's probably writing a blog post right now.
He's the reason we're together.
He is the reason you and I are together. Thank you for that, Mike. He did lead me to you. Plus, I got to see him on, you getting manly on the Manly Show.
That was a kick in the pants. We had a good time.
That was a fun one. I'm still laughing at Wade Harmon, who said, how many times had he watched Under Siege?
Who knows?
I think he's in 99 or something crazy. Something stalkerish. I kind of liked it about him. So, Mike, good to see you in here. Hello to Hollywood. Thank you, Zara. I appreciate that, sister. My girl, Lainey. Hi, sister. Hey. I'm going to attempt to watch it live from the boonies. Hashtag boonie Wi-Fi. I can just hear like a little hamster running her Wi-Fi on his little wheel. So, but she is going to make it, so I love it. Look we've got Candy coming in. She's impatient. Hashtag Hollywood. Hashtag she's ready to get her learn on. She's actually all the way from Tokyo. How you like that?
Oh, wow. Fabulous.
Yeah, she is good stuff. She's been here a lot. Sandra Sallin, she's in your neck of the woods. She's going to have it on watching the replay because she's Uber mom. She's taking her son to the airport. Yes, she's fabulous. I have a girl crush on her. David Henry Pipe, hi honey. He does like the title of one of your books that you contributed to. The writer got screwed but didn't have to.
So true.
So, you know what I love it? I love it when people are going and looking at the stuff that we posted and paying attention. So that is good stuff. Dawn Swick, this is my sister, definitely. She looked at her watch. She said it's Mia o'clock. She and I. So it's Mia Voss o'clock. So she is my twinsy because we were actually born on the same day, same year, and are going to be celebrating version 5.0 together next year. It's hopefully in Italy. Debbie liked it. Big mistake, huge. I had somebody on the show last week that I absolutely loved, and the one thing that I loved about him is he does the same thing that I do. He speaks in movie quotes. So do you do that a lot, Gary? Is that something that you do?
I catch myself, yeah.
And so do people think it's shticky and you're like, hey, what do you want from me? I'm in this industry.
If it's absolutely spot on, it works.
It totally does. Hey, we're going to do one more. Hi, Kevin Burns. It's like a fun bar talking about my back crap crazy audience. Oh, Sean Mahan is here saying hi to his girlfriends. Sean is way over across the pond, and he is making it here today. Brian Shea, hi, brother. He's going to listen in the background, though he would love to be playing with the pack. Hey, sometimes you got to do that. That's why I need to start podcasting and why I've got this giant microphone, as we know. So guys, let's talk to Gary. Gary, I told you in the green room, you talk a lot about movies, a lot of the movie producing that you've done, but we don't know tell me a little bit of backstory on how you got into Hollywood in the first place.
I was that boy in the bubble. I lived inside of books starting at a really young age. I was
Cool.
my first superhero was the Scarlet Pimpernel. I think I discovered him at age 7. And I
Awesome.
sort of never looked back. Like I had a beautiful family. They were, I belonged to my family, but I wasn't deeply connected to this planet. I was like off in Storyland from a
Sure.
young age. And when I went to Berkeley undergrad. When I was there, I love story in all its forms, and one of them is music, right? Lyrics.
Hmm.
And I just thought these are like the poet laureates of our time. That was a lot of years ago, and I ended up producing all the concerts at UC Berkeley. And I thought about going into the music business, but I really had this other left turn in life. So I went to law school. I became a criminal defense lawyer because I thought, wow, the theatrics of the courtroom. And, you know, I grew up on Perry Mason, and if you don't tell a persuasive story, bad stuff's going to happen. Well,
Right.
bad stuff happened because I realized this is the worst marriage of temperament and career ever conceived. So, like, I
And
did
I
it
love
for,
how that's totally out of left field, by the way. I was not expecting that. You're like, skirt, and then I went into criminal law, which is a
yeah,
story. You're absolutely right.
yeah, I'm impulsive on a slow track. Like, I'll try something and go, oh, never mind. And so I decided to run away to the circus, which is, you know, being a lawyer just didn't really light me up. So I ran away to the Southland and didn't really know anyone or anything about the business. But I had this idea that somehow the world would open its arms and welcome me into the world of film. One of my heroes was Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola, his
Hmm.
early films, oh my God. And I thought, I'm going to call him, he's going to hire me, we're going to work together for decades, and life is going to be glorious. When he wouldn't return my 17th phone call, I started to get the hint. This was not going to be a good date. And decided to, I won't tell you the story, but I optioned an old 1920s black and white film called The New Babylon that featured a score by a then 21-year-old Shostakovich about the communards in Paris. It was the most beautiful film, and I was going to tour that at all the grand theaters in America like Coppola did the film Napoleon. That would get his attention. So I hired in Columbus, Ohio, the theater, the symphony, the Teamsters, all this stuff. The company I hired forgot to sell the tickets. There were no people.
Oh,
I lost $80,000 in a weekend. That was my beginning in the film business, was losing $80,000 in a weekend, which might as well have been, you know, $8 million back then.
was it like this, Gary? Yeah,
Yeah.
the crickets chirping. Oh,
I couldn't even afford that cricket.
oh, not even one damn cricket.
So sad.
Oh my goodness.
But I decided that I really just wanted to work with writers and directors. I didn't know anyone, so I joined an outdoor health club. I played hours of tennis and paddle tennis every day, and whoever came on the court in the middle of the week, who's there? The creators,
Actors and that, right? Just yeah,
writers, you know, freelancers, right?
right.
So I'd go out and play hours and hours of paddle tennis, and I'd say, "Who, you know, tell me about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a writer. I'm a filmmaker, or whatever." And I'd say, "Oh my gosh, what a coincidence! I represent people just like you." Of course, I didn't, but I would, and
Sometimes
that's
you
how
have to tell the story before it's true, right?
make it real. And so I got all my clients on a tennis court, and that gave me an excuse to pick up the phone and start calling producers and studio executives and agents and just people, and legitimately be able to say, I have the greatest new boutique I represent the best new talent, and we need to get together and have coffee or come to your office or whatever it is. We need to know one another. And that's how I started.
How
I
old
did
were you, Gary?
30
Okay.
when I moved here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like my third career, something like that. And
I like it that you're on your third career at 30, because, like, listen, like, you guys do the math. That's not easy to get through law school and then actually start practicing and then switch gears. So that's impressive.
yeah, well,
It's different.
I just knew what I wanted. I wanted to be in the storytelling business. And so anyway, I did that. I built that business up. It was fun. It was great. It treated me really well. It took about 3 years. I was starving for about 3 years, and then it all started to coalesce and make sense. And I learned how to break new people into the business. And then in 1988, yeah, the writers went on strike, shut the whole of the business. Film and TV was ground to a halt, no production. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't earn money. We couldn't do anything.
Right.
And I looked at that and I thought, this is going to go on for about a year. Everyone knew it would be a long strike. And I thought to myself, it's so funny, I didn't really think, gosh, how am I going to pay the bills, which is a logical thought. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be bored. I've never been bored in my life.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do? So I got one of my young writers to dust off a script. I said, you're going to direct your first film. I know you want to direct. I want to produce my first film. I'll raise $17. We'll go make a film. And we did, and had way too much fun. I got the bug. We produced a film. Actually, we had a script called 3000, which later became this thing called Pretty Woman. Well, 3000 was a dark, tragic drama, probably one of the best scripts I will ever hold in these hands.
Yes.
I sent it to my friend who ran Robert Redford's, a lot of his stuff at Sundance. She read it, went, oh my God, you're one of our 8 scripts or 10 scripts or whatever number of scripts that are going to be projects at our production lab, which is a huge honor and very big headline for Hollywood, which projects get accepted. So that was part of my market. Well, we were supposed to get on a plane 4 weeks later. From
Right.
4 weeks after I got $200,000, which was, and Jonathan and I knew as much as a rock about how to make a film.
Right. Hey, and can I just jump in real quick? I want to ask our audience if they can answer a trivia question on what that number 3000 is. Don't tell them. We'll see if they know, because I know that story, by the way. So I love it. Let's see if anybody knows it. So yes, so you didn't know diddly about making the movies, but look at if you build it, they'll come, right?
Well, yeah. So I just turned to Jonathan. I said, "We'll make the film when we get back from Sundance." He said, "Oh no, I don't want to think about it while we're at Sundance. Let's make it before we go. 4 weeks."
Oh.
I said, sure, okay, fine. We did. We made a film called Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. Humble beginnings, right?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, it was fabulous. Anyway, I really got the bug for producing. It seemed a much bigger canvas to paint on than representing clients.
Sure.
So that was sort of the next elevation of becoming my own client, basically, and choosing stories and developing them and attracting all the talent and all of that. And that's sort of how I got into it.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea, too. You see that you're representing, when you made that transition, I love that phrase, I did it myself, turning yourself into your own client, because that you're loving that big canvas and telling the stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. So then, so this is 1989. We all know what happened. We were talking about it in the green room of me seeing the posters living in New York City when I was 25, 1990, and those big posters of Pretty Woman coming out. It was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, every film is a miracle. Getting any film made at any budget level, from $10 to $100 million, they're all a miracle.
Sure.
They're so complex. As a business model, it's a startup with nothing but huge risk and obscene monetary need, and bringing together a couple of hundred people to work from day one like this beautifully orchestrated, symphony.
Right.
And I mean, and then you give away the best of it for free, hoping people will like it. And it's a really absurd model, and yet it works because we. And this is really perfect as a segue, great, are wired as human beings to be absolutely enthralled by a great story. And the more we tell a story, the more successful and persuasive and powerful we become and live into our capacity. Anyway, yeah, I forget where that was going. Pretty Woman, yes.
No. But you know what? That actually, what we did, I was segueing into the movie, but you backed up into that bigger thing. I mean, I bet we could ask everybody to tell their stories about their favorite movies or their fascination. I mean, you think about the original of Hollywood, of like being discovered in the malt shop or something like that. These wonderful stories of people being discovered, getting into the industry, and then the stories themselves and how much they affected us. And I love that you were talking about that it started with reading for you, because think about that. Scripts are the written version of it, and then you help turn it into the actual the story.
Yeah. I mean, I love seeing, my whole thing is I love helping people live into their creative dreams.
Mm-hmm.
One of my early clients, an attorney, called me and he said, I have this script by these two young writers, and it's been passed on, read by and passed on by every shop, independent, studio, everything in between. Would you read it? And I said, yeah, okay. And long story short, I said, if they will, I'll read it if they'll come meet me and take my notes and do one rewrite and change the title and let me remarket it, which we did. I sold it 90 days later to Warner Brothers for $250,000. The writing partnership split up. Both very successful, amicable. One of them, I remember when I first met him, I said, what do you love? I want to be a filmmaker. I've never, sold a script. I've never been produced, but this is my dream. And one of the things that he loved was Planet of the Apes. I always love to find out, what kind of films do you love?
Right.
Well, recently, this juggernaut, this massive success called Dawn of the Planet of the Apes came out.
Right.
The gentleman who directed that is the same fella I'm talking about.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So you get to see that.
Those kinds of stories, people living into their dreams, oh my God, I get chills.
It does not. Talk about that. Now that makes you happy when you see, you think about Spielberg, how much he struggled and the things he had to go to find his dream, and just really probably hitting bottom on that too. Can I tell you who two of my favorite directors are, just to throw it out there? Sofia Coppola. I am just fascinated with her. I love what that kid has done, because she is a kid still.
Yeah.
But starting, I would say, I loved Suicide Virgins. I was fascinated with that. And sorry, guys, I'm going to use Gary just to talk about stuff I love. And then I also loved, she did Lost in Translation, which I thought was one of the most magical movies I'd seen in a long time. And I thought that whole May-December thing, I was like, whoa, this doesn't make any sense. And then you see it. And it was absolute magic to me. So
that was inspired. I mean, she obviously got great genes, creative genes, but that was an inspired bit of filmmaking.
Yes. And what was her does anybody know? I'm going to throw this out there for trivia too. What was one of the first movies that Sofia Coppola appeared in? Got to throw that out there, and then we'll answer a little. Do you know that one, don't you?
Well, it would have been one of the Godfather. She was a stand-in. She was a replacement on one of the Godfather films.
No, remember, she took a bunch of crap for that. Actually, he did too. Yeah, people did not.
Dad took a lot of flack.
Yeah, he did. It's interesting. It's interesting to see.
I don't know which film.
I will. I'm going to see if anybody knows it, and then I will tell you, because I told you I'm a junkie. And we were laughing. I don't know if you guys saw my trailer. This is my high holy season. That it's starting, and I ain't talking football. I'm talking awards season. So the Emmys are this Sunday, I think. That starts it off for me. Goes all the way to February. With the big game, with the big Super Bowl. We all know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, definitely. You know what? Let me throw in a couple questions, and I just need to give a shout out to Rain Dell. She's in the back scenes. She's the producer of the show today. How You Like Me Now with that one. So she is rocking it out. Let's see. My girl Julia Aspinwall. Hi, honey. Love her. She said, I would love to hear how you got to those ideas. I'm not sure what that was, but what was your journey? What teachings and people influenced you? I'm sure you have quite a story. So yeah, do you have, you mentioned Coppola obviously, but do you have any others that just really lit you up you talked about books that really inspired you?
Oh my gosh, I have a whole library full of my faves, so it's hard to pick one or two. And they're not all, in fact, the majority of them have nothing to do with filmmaking or Hollywood. I am a massive student. I'm a perpetually curious, but Dorothy Parker had this wonderful quote saying, the cure for boredom is curiosity, and there is no cure for curiosity.
Mm-hmm. And Get yourself a round table and get curious, right?
Yes, exactly. Go Algonquin, exactly. It's like, there's just not enough time to consume all that I want to consume.
Yes.
So some of my early heroes were the great criminal defense lawyer, great legal minds, great scholars, I used to read Supreme Court justice opinions for fun, just to see how these brilliant minds think, right? I mean, I'm a little wag, okay, but I love, like I got to go see Michio Kaku recently, the co-inventor of string theory. Like, I will seek out anything that expands this.
Yes.
Because it just lights me up, and I find story in everything. So everything engages the imagination. I'm an equal opportunity I'm very non-judgmental about it. It's like I'm just curious.
Yes.
So and I've been blessed because a lot of the people who've written books that I really admire have become friends because I seek them out. Like I will target, like I'm a laser. I will go out and target all the people that I want in my, embrace.
Yes.
And I'll give you, Jonathan Fields. Not that he's, but Jonathan's an amazing guy back in New York, and this is the way my life works. So I'm on the phone with a dear friend of mine who's brilliant in Connecticut, like one of the brightest men I know. I said, I've been reading this stuff online from this guy, and I really want to meet him. I'm going to target him this week. Every week I target a couple of people.
Nice.
And he says, oh, that's great. Okay, fabulous. Who is it? And I said the name, and he said, oh, well, would you like to meet him in the next 2 hours? And I said, of course, what are you talking about? He said,
and then you went your pants, and then you said yes.
I said, absolutely. How's that going to happen? He said, well, I'm having lunch with him. I'll put him on the phone to you. Like, I really believe that's how life works.
I think so too. That's, you know what? That's magic. So you've set intention, right?
Yeah, you create magical miracles just by saying that's the crossroads.
Yeah.
That's where I want to live.
But I love that you, again, with the intention, you're like, I am intentionally going to meet these and these people. And I call it business crushes. I'm like, I got a crush on you. Like, I like you. I mean, I love being almost sort of childlike when you meet somebody or find somebody or find a book and say, I like you. And you're just unapologetic about it and not asking for anything. You just literally want to tell them that. I always say I'm going to start doing a show. Like, remember Saturday Night Live when Chris Farley used to do the show and he would be like, he would interview people and he would just say, remember when you did that movie? That was awesome. Like, I could see doing a show like that too.
But it's true. It's, listen, there's nothing more flattering, more honoring than reaching out to someone and saying, I just so admire, would you be my 3.7-minute mentor? Would you just light up my world for a few minutes?
I love that. I love that 3.7-minute mentor.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to add value. People don't see that about themselves. They think, I haven't earned the right, or whatever that lesser story is. Look, the story we tell ourselves about ourselves is absolute, utter fiction. And the story that others who really deeply understand who you are in the world, the impact that you have, how you behave, that's nonfiction. And sometimes we just get in our own way.
That was the best soundbite ever, what you just said. That is fantastic. That's going on the timestamp. Absolutely. Like, you just, it's a story.
Because the things that you take for granted about yourself, those are actually the things that other people most want to know. Mm-hmm. I actually had a writer years ago, an agent called me and said, I have this hip pocket client, someone I'm, seeing if I'm going to represent them. Would you meet her? I said, yes. Anne. Her name was Anne. I forget her last. Oh, I know her name. And Anne walks in, and I ask I love to ask questions. I'm curious. So I ask questions. Tell me about your life. Tell me this. Tell me that. How'd you come to this point? She tells me, I keep her talking for like an hour. She tells me she's from Pennsylvania. She has the wackiest family I've ever heard of in my life. Mm-hmm. And so I'm pulling out all these relationships and stories and history, and I said, you're going home. Bring me, I want to see yearbooks from school. I want to see family photo albums. I want to see, your father was the editor of the local newspaper, and you used to fight him, do editorials where you'd fight in print. I want copies of those. Bring me all this stuff. Anyway, long story short, she did bring them back. But at the end of that hour, I looked at her and I said, I would like to pitch you a story. May I pitch you a story? And she said, sure. And I pitched her life story. I pitched her life story as a comedy because it was so unbelievably amazing.
Right.
Long story short, she went home, she collected up all that stuff. Her agent set that picture up. Her first ever studio, or any film deal, but her first studio deal certainly, at Paramount Pictures. She set up her own life story as a film deal at Paramount. But she had no idea up until that moment that her life was interesting.
Right. They weren't asking the right questions. And again, it's the outside set of eyes, right? You see it, like, especially from what you do, you get that magic eye of like, I see it this way. And get to how fun to light that thing up, right? And get her going on that. Oh, I love that. I have a couple more comments here too. People
Please.
are kind of blowing up a little bit. It's pretty fun. So we've got a few. I've got hi Lenny, Laney. She says chronic student mindset. One of my go-to quotes is Ed Catmull's "When faced with a challenge, get smarter." Would be forever grateful for a quote on passion for learning creativity from you. Pretty please. I pretty much say everything you've said is that, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you some of my favorite quotes. Ferdinand Foch. Who was Ferdinand Foch? Ferdinand Foch was a field marshal in World War I believe. This is the most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. It's like light your, just literally light yourself on fire because it will work miracles. That's, people are looking for a leader. People are looking for a great story to attach to.
Right.
Don't speak in Latin. Don't speak in these long, don't overspeak awkward techno language. Go simple, go from the heart, go from the gut. This is your insurance policy. Don't trust it. It wants you to be safe. It wants you to live in a dark closet that's padded.
Yes.
This is your truth zone down here, your viscera, spleen, gut, solar plexus, your heart. And if you live from there, and more importantly, if you speak from there, it's like I said earlier, I didn't represent. I wanted to. I told people I did. Speak your truth. Where do you want to go? Speak with, really mean it. Or ask questions. Ask questions of people from that same sort of emotional, energetic space, and the world transforms. It comes to you in a totally different way. So to me, that's life, and is nothing but creativity.
Right.
Life is like a 5-star hotel, and you're the concierge, and your job is to make wishes come true for others and for yourself. And the way you do that is come from this place that's really just, we use that word a lot today.
Right.
Be authentic. Just be you.
And it's a lot of people say it's overused. It's not. It's true. And I love what you're saying. I think that when you are coming from that place and it's keeping it simple, it's a lot easier to tell that same thing over and over again because you're coming from that same fired up place. And when we're saying light on fire, we're not talking about self-immolation, people. More like Hunger Games when she's got that cool outfit on. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the same kind of thing. Let me clarify for anybody who's going to go super literal out there. I need to give another quick shout out to Robert Crusoe. He's Tang Potentian, and I love my brother for it. I think he also commented that he wrote a screenplay, which I loves about him, which I loves him anyway. So I love this. My girl Laura is saying, this is awesome. I love hearing about the inner thoughts, ideas, and stories that lead people to create legendary stuff. Perfect. The nerd in me will need a towel after this. Beautiful. That is fantastic. On a quick side note, I just have to say, one of my favorite follow-ups to the same characters that were in Pretty Woman was Runaway Bride. I think that might have been, oh gosh, I forgot. It might have been Rob Reiner that did that. I just thought Runaway Bride showed again that amazing chemistry between Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, and I think it got poo-pooed a lot by people. I love saying poo-poo.
It did. It was actually the same exact group of people, same director, Gary Marshall, same
Oh, it was Gary Marshall. Okay, gotcha.
Hector Elizondo was in it, same line producer. I mean, it was like the whole... Hector Elizondo that had played the concierge, he played the husband, and then it was, what's it? Well, who played his ex-wife? I don't remember.
I'm going to bust it out here in a second because she's wonderful. She's married to, what's his name from Forrest Gump? Why am I forgetting his name?
Tom Hanks.
It's Tom Hanks' wife, which I love. But anyway, I thought that was one of the most adorable. I loved the charming element to it. So I tell people to go back and see that because I think they missed out a little bit. They were looking for a blockbuster thing, but it was a different character. So I'm getting on my soapbox. I thought it was adorable. Sheffy, my brother Sheffy, Chef Dennis, if you have not met him, you need to get you some of that because he's fabulous. He had a comment about movies. Books being made into movies. This is a hot button, honey. I know you know this. Love movies, but hate it when one of my favorite books is made into a movie because they usually leave out so much that's important to me of the movie. But and I hear him. I would love to hear some examples of what people thought were good adaptations. Lovely Bones, I thought was an interesting adaptation of it, but I thought that was such a hard book to make into a film because of the protagonist or the main character was so in her head. So that's my little thing. But tell me some examples, or tell me what your opinion is of that.
Well, I happen to agree. I often have a rule, like if I'm really deeply in love with a book, I will rarely go see the movie version of it. It started when I was a million years ago. I was in college. They did a film of the Magus. Is it John Knowles or John Fowles? John Fowles' book, I think. And the Magus was like a piece of literature that I worshipped at the time. The problem often is the very same book that is so alluring to us is alluring to us for the same reason that a great stage play is. Stage plays and movies are polar opposite ideas. One is about emotional and intellectual arcs that are they're not anchored to any kind of plot point.
Right.
They are very internal dialogues, and movies are very external. They are very plot driven. They're very dialogue driven, and oftentimes the things look. All we want is to be moved. So when a book deeply impacts us, moves us, really, whether it's in whatever direction, it doesn't necessarily mean we want it to be a movie because we want the world to see it. Right. But oftentimes it just doesn't work. Some do. Some do.
Tell me ones that you thought that did work.
I'm trying to think.
I know, me too. I'm stumping myself.
I've actually adapted 2 books.
Ooh, here's a good one. Hold on a second. Life of Pi. I agree with Cheryl Deuce. I was really shocked by that one. Right?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was. What else? Let's get some ideas from. I did a book by Robert Cormier called Fade at MGM. Very dark, very, very, very dark. Others had tried it. I tried it. The script was great. It was just too relentless. I did an Edgar Rice Burroughs book, the same guy who did Tarzan, of course. I did a thing called The Monster Men at Warner Brothers. I've never actually produced any of the books that I developed into screenplays.
Wow.
It's very hard. It is very, very hard.
I think so.
I wish I could come up off the.
What about Fight Club? Was that Chuck Palahniuk who? I thought.
Oh, I can never say his name. Yes, I think it was.
Something like that. Yeah.
If true, that was a great adaptation then, because that film really worked.
Yes, that's a tough one. Always good. I know it's stumping. I'd love to see if anybody else has some of their favorites too. Definitely. Hold on. Let me see if there's. Let's see if there's some other ones too. And how interesting that you've been on both sides of it too, because you can see what it looks like when it's in your head or when it's in your heart or in that large imagination, because it's just it's has no roof, right?
There's an old expression that I think applies to all of life. It certainly applies to movie making, but it comes from aeronautics. It's a meteorological term in aeronautics. And actually, former President Bush, the senior, has this on as a plaque on the front of his cottage in Kennebunkport, and it says CAVU, CAVU, and that stands for Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited. And that's literally how you feel when you come across that story that just it's like lights you up. You want to laugh and cry and dance all at the same time. And you've got to tell this story. Yeah.
I wish we could get a YouTube compilation of your crazy moments when you're reading something and freaking out and just like, this is the best thing ever. I bet. Like, that would be the best compilation ever of when you get lit up by something, which I love. Let's see if we've got, I love this. Dawn Swick says she could listen to you forever. So there's that. I could too.
Thank you, Dawn. Actually, the craziest moment was I was handed a script by a guy who was a comic known for he's on a regular on a TV show, and his writing partner, and they were new. But they were both like crazy funny, like illegally funny, and they wrote this script and they handed it to me, and I said, it's not thick enough to be a script. It's 84 pages, and they said, just read it. I could read about 3 pages at a time. I was crying from laughter. I mean, my vision was so blurred from my tear ducts that I literally couldn't see the print on the page. It took me forever to read these damn 84 pages. The funniest thing I've ever read in my life. But God bless, right? I mean,
Right.
when those moments come, it's gold.
Too much. Can you tell us what that was?
It was a film that never got made. I wanted to make it into. How do I tell this story? I wanted to make it independently. I had a director that I attached. I wanted to make it for like several $1 million. I thought, this is going to blow people away. I'm going to take the market by storm. This quiet little thing that no one saw coming. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I shared it with some agents at one of the bigger agencies, one of the big four. Big mistake. Huge.
Big mistake.
and the next thing I know, I'm getting a call from Ron Howard's office. We need to have a meeting. And so I go in for a meeting with Ron Howard, Brian Grazer, their staff, whatever. And basically there's this, how do you define? I mean, there's a moment when you look at this situation with the agencies and these big players and you say, if I say no, what are the repercussions, right? And it just became ridiculous. So I said, okay, let's partner on this maybe, but you got to promise me that we're going to make it this year and that we're going to make it way below normal budget standards, maybe not 4, but maybe 8 or 10 max, and we're going to go under the radar. Yes, 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 says everybody. No, 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 no. So it like about 6 years later, it had been through development, what we call development hell. It had been through Eddie Murphy land. It had been over here. It had been over there, and it sort of died under the weight of. We'd spent more than I had in mind for a budget just on development, and it went where a lot of scripts go, which is that sort of graveyard of that sad story graveyard.
I can't decide what would be tougher, that kind of thing or the situation where movies are actually made and they sit in the can and they never come off the shelf. I think that would be really tough for a lot of people. Like, that would be like giving birth and then you just put the baby in the closet and it never goes out. It's awful. But on the flip side, think about Jessica Lange. Remember, they did a movie with Jessica Lange and Tommy Lee Jones like 8 years before, and then it finally came out, and didn't she get an Oscar for it?
Yeah, well,
I gotta look that one up.
I love Jessica Lange. She's amazing.
And she got made. Remember, when she came out with it was King Kong, like years ago. A hot little number she was, and then
my God.
Oh, Let's all file it under "We'd all hit that," right?
Yeah. That's a major crush right there.
Exactly. Okay, so I just have to admit that you were right and I was wrong. She was first in The Godfather, the first one, so you're totally right. I was thinking of Godfather 3 was when Sofia Coppola got when they gave her a hard time. But the first movie I ever saw her was in The Outsiders.
Oh my God.
She played a little bit part in that. Bless her heart.
That was quite a cast.
Remember that? Now, that was a book, too, because I read that. There's a good example of it. I read that as a kid, and it was, an unlikely story that, a young girl in Illinois would read about some punk kid in, I think it was Oklahoma. But it was amazingly done. Here's a couple of people have comments about movies they loved. The Body by Stephen King, made into Stand By Me. Good one. That's Rain, said that. They did a great job on that. Remember that one?
Yeah. Actually, Stephen King may be one of the great exceptions because a number of his have been pretty good.
Shawshank Redemption. I mean, forget it. And these were short stories, too. In fact, that might have even been from the same, I think it was The Body, the movie where it was about the Nazi. And there was 3 or 4 stories in one book that were all made into films, into feature films, too. Impressive. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm trying to think. Was Schindler's List actually a book?
I believe it was also.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was like shutting your head in the car door watching that.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved it, but I was like...
Yeah, that hurt so good, do it again.
It hurt so good, do it again. It really did, especially the pink coat, the red coat. Whoa, kill me. Hunger Games, Divergent, Hobbit. That was from Alethea, said that. Gone with the Wind. I'm a little iffy on that one because I was a big fan of the book, so I wasn't as into it as I thought I would be. But it was good. So English Patient. There's another good one, right?
Yeah,
Did you?
I may be one of the few who didn't jump up and down about that film.
Well,
I
probably
thought
because
it
it
was
was 8 hours long.
that it was beautiful set design, beautiful costuming. The locations were amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you're so diplomatic. I love that. I know think about that, the movies that just people go bat crap crazy over, and you're like, meh. You know, it's very relative. One other quick question for you to pick your brain. Robert Altman is also one of my favorite directors. The Player. Did you think that was accurate? The movie,
In
The
part,
Player.
yeah. I mean, in spirit, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Very tongue in cheek, though, right?
Yeah, there's a wonderful quote. I'm not going to be able to say it, but you can check. Hunter Thompson has a quote of defining Hollywood, and it's just this litany of thieves and killings and murders and mayhem and this and that. And at the end he says, yeah, and there's also a negative side to Hollywood. But I think that The Player captured some of what was true at that time in the 80s. I think was it the 80s? Yeah. I think I've lost you. Is it me?
I'm back.
Oh.
That was Bob Voss. Kicked me off my show. My cat kicked me off my show. I don't.
Your cat did that. Wow, talented cat. All right, the cat is definitely being mischievous. I can see that. All right, I don't hear a thing. Again, I think it's. Not sure if that's near you. Oh, there you are.
Oh, darling, yeah, it's Bob Voss. He literally just jumped up twice and knocked everything off right in the middle of your Hunter Thompson quote. So everybody else got to hear it, but me. Will you say it again for me, please?
No, I can't tell. I'll tell you Norman Mailer quote. He said, "What's the experience of filmmaking?" In an interview many, many, many years ago, Norman Mailer, who's a very interesting brain, basically said, "Let me say, okay." He said it's one part military campaign, one part nightmare, one part orgy, and a high.
Oh.
Yeah, Hunter Thompson.
I bet that.
Hunter Thompson had a less generous view of it.
Yeah, I can absolutely guess on that one. I'm sure it was feisty and a little the opposite of what you are, which would be.
Which I think is why I appreciated it, because it was so opposite to my worldview.
Wow. Now that was not Bob Voss, by the way.
Okay, Bob gets a pass on that one.
Yeah, that was Google on that little fun one. So, all right, I guess they're trying to tell us. And listen, we have more viewers than I've had in the past. I just want to let you know we're kind of breaking a record, so people want to know what's going on. But I think it's I have to tell you. Let me gush on you for a little bit. You're so charming, and I love what you have to say. You're very from the heart.
You know what? I see this. I've never seen this whole group chat column, and
yes.
Your audience are unbelievable. I mean, I can't read. There's a novel going on here. It's so fascinating.
Isn't that fun to see?
So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to all these wonderful, delicious folks from around apparently very international too. But anyway, it's really quite amazing that everyone's tuned in, and I just love it. Anyway, thanks for the questions.
I think we need to have another one, by the way. We might need to have part 2 of Gary Goldstein.
Anytime, darling. I'm delighted. You cracked me up. I'm happy to come back anytime. You name the date, you name the place, I'll wear clean underwear. We're good.
I have to tell you, people know that anytime people say, like, I was entertained, was cracking up, that my job is done. So I love it.
I just, I don't know what I could do I think I just have to admire your tiara and not even try to compete because it's just way too cool. But, look, this has been great. I know that you have another show, so I don't want to, but thank you. Yep. This is, like, really cool. If I could leave you with one, it's like I love what you're doing because I think that what you bring to people is really actually, it's a lot of fun and it's entertaining and it's a good time. You make it a good time. But underneath that, there's a lot of riches. There's a real foundation of like idea behind it, and that I value that. I honor that.
Making my day. Listen, I've got a huge echo apparently, but I'm just going to throw down the mic with you saying that to me. So that just seriously made my weekend. Because this is what I love to do. So listen, I'm not going to talk too much more. I'm going to let you tell me your bat crap crazy.
My bat crap crazy. Say that 10 times fast. Is that moment, that insanely perfect moment. Because, look, life is about imperfect action. It's about being messy and beautiful at the same time. And so what I love is that moment when people really just open their mouth and out comes who they are, what they care about, why they do what they do, the truth. When people tell the truth, that's it. It's like, cool.
You're singing my tune, by the way, that life is messy and you just have to embrace it.
Yeah.
I love it. Listen, tell us where we can find you. Tell us real quick about Breaking into Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, Breaking into Hollywood. It's brand new. I just unveiled it, a month recently. So it's breakingintohollywood.com. It's a book that I wrote. I wrote the book because over the years, everybody asks, how do I get from where I am to my dream, right? What's that path? And a lot of times in the fields of creativity, it seems like there are no footprints in the sand. There's no pathway. Like if you want to be an accountant or an architect or an attorney or something, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, there's a way, how to do it. You do that. You get this schooling, you take that exam, you join this net organization, blah, blah, blah. Creativity, it's a little more random. It seems mysterious. It's not. So I wrote the book to be that, and the coursework, the interactive coursework that makes it really personally tailored to everybody, that's all the stuff that's in Breaking into Hollywood. But more important, it's a community. It's a community where we have this kind of conversation that's really meaningful to folks. That's what I care about. So breakingintohollywood.com is where I'm starting to hang out pretty much all the time. And that's on Google+. Look it up. I think I've lost you, Mia. Anyway, if you're hearing this, Google+ community. Just type in Breaking into Hollywood, and that's kind of where we're going to be.
Google. I'll tell you.
It's a miracle.
It is a miracle. I'm still here.
Say, Mia Voss, you rock. You're like a delightful spirit on the planet. I want to thank you for this, and I would love to come back and hang out.
Yes, we're going to end the show before it ends me. Darling, you are fabulous. As long as you got to say what you needed to say, then I'm all good. So, you guys,
we are
that's
good.
it for the Nia Connect Power Chat. Thank you, Gary. You're my new favorite thing.
Have a beautiful day. Thanks. Have a beautiful day.